Hey everybody, welcome back to more of the Twits by Roald Dahl with illustrations by Quentin Blake. We're going to be reading chapter 21 through 24. Chapter 21 is named Mr. and Mrs. Twit Go Off to Buy Guns. The next morning, when Mr. Twit came out with his huge basket, not a single bird was sitting on either the monkey cage or the big dead tree. They were all perched happily on the roof of Mr. Twit's house. The roly-poly bird was up there as well, and the monkeys in the cage and a whole lot of them were hooting with laughter at Mr. Twit. No bird pie for Mr. Twit.
No. Oh no, boy pie.
Yeah, just as well. "Oh, wipe that silly laugh off your beaks!" Mr. Twit screamed at the birds. "I'll get you next time, you filthy, feathery frumps! I'll wring your necks, the whole lot of you, and have you bubbling in a pot of bird pie before this day is out." "How are you going to do that?" asked Mrs. Twit, who had come outside to see what all the noise was about. "I won't have you smearing sticky glue all over the roof of our house." Mr. Twit got very excited. I've got a great idea," he cried. "We'll both go into town right away and we'll buy a gun each," he shouted. "How's that?" "Brilliant!" cried Mrs. Twit, grinning and showing her long yellow teeth. "We'll buy those big shotguns that spray out 50 bullets or more with each bang." "Exactly," said Mr. Twit. "Lock up the house while I go and make sure the monkeys are safely shut away." Mr. Twit went over to the monkey cage. "Attention!" he barked in his fearsome monkey trainer's voice. "Upside down, all of you, and jump to it, one on top of the other. Quick, get on with it or you'll feel Mrs. Twit stick across your backsides." Obediently, the poor monkeys stood on their hands and clambered on one on top of each other, with Muggle Womp at the bottom and the smallest child at the very top. "Now stay there till we come back," Mr. Twit ordered. "Don't you dare move, and don't overbalance. When we return in 2 or 3 hours' time, I shall expect to find you all in the exactly same position as you are now. You understand?" And with that, Mr. Twit marched away. Mrs. Twit went with him, and the monkeys were left alone with the birds. Chapter 22. Muggle Womp Has an Idea. As soon as Mr. and Mrs. Twit had disappeared down the road, the monkeys all flipped back onto their feet the right way up. "Quick! Get the key!" Muggle Womp called out to the roly-poly bird, who was sitting on top of the house. "What key?" shouted the roly-poly bird. "The key to the door of our cage! It's hanging on the nail in the workshed. That's where he always puts it." The roly-poly bird flew down and came back with the key in his beak. A Muggle Womp reached a hand through the bars of the cage and took the key. He put it on the lock and he turned it. The door opened. All 4 monkeys leapt out together. "We're free!" cried the 2 little ones. "Where shall we hide? Where shall we go?" "Don't get excited," said Muggle Womp. "Calm down, everybody. Before we escape from this beastly place, we have one very important thing to do." "What?" they asked. "We're going to turn those terrible Twits upside down." "We're going to what? You must be joking, Dad." "I'm not joking," said Muggle Womp. "We're going to turn both Mr. and Mrs. Twit upside down with their legs in the air." "Don't be ridiculous," said the roly-poly bird. "How can we possibly turn those 2 maggoty old monsters upside down?" "Oh, we can, cried Muggle Womp. "We're going to make them stand on their heads for hours and hours and hours, perhaps forever. Let's see how they like it for a change." "How?" said the roly-poly birds. "Just tell me how." Muggle Womp lay on his head on one side, and a tiny winking little smile touched the corners of his mouth. "Now and again," he said, "but not very often, I have a brilliant idea. This is one of them. Follow me, my friends, follow me." He scampered off towards the house, and the 3 other monkeys and the roly-poly bird went after him. "Buckets and paintbrushes!" cried Muggle Womp. "That's what we want next. There are plenty in the workshed. Hurry up, everybody, get a bucket and a paintbrush." Inside Mr. Twit's workshed there was an enormous barrel of hug-tight
Sticky glue.
the stuff he used for catching.
That's what they need.
That's right. "We are now going into the big house. Fill your buckets." Mrs. Twit had hidden the key to the front door under the mat, and Muggle Womp had seen her doing it, so it was easy for them to get in. In they went, all 4 monkeys with their buckets of sticky glue. Then came the roly-poly bird, flying in after them, with a bucket in his beak and a brush in his claw. Chapter 23. The Great Glue Painting begins. "This is the living room," announced Muggle 1. "The grand and glorious living room where those two fearful, frumptious freaks eat bird pie every week for supper." "Oh, please don't mention bird pie again," said the roly-poly bird. "It gives me the shudders." "We mustn't waste time," cried Muggle 1. Hurry up, hurry up. Now the first thing is this. I want everybody to paint sticky glue." "Where?" "All over the ceiling." "Cover it, smear it in every corner." "Over the ceiling," they cried. "What? Why the ceiling?" "Never mind why," shouted Muggle 1. "Just do as you're told and don't argue." "But how?"
Here and on the floor everywhere?
"Not on the floor."
Why?
"You'll see." "But how do we get up there?" they asked. "We can't reach." "Monkeys can reach anywhere," shouted Muggle 1. He was in a frenzy of excitement now, waving his paintbrush and his bucket and leaping all over the room. Come on, jump on the table, stand on the chairs, hop on each other's shoulders. Roly-poly can do it flying. Don't stand there gaping, we have to hurry. Don't you understand? Those terrible twits will be back any moment this time, and they'll have guns. Get on with it, for heaven's sake, get on with it." And so the great painting of the ceiling began. Look at all those birds up there, gluing the ceiling. All the other birds who had been sitting on the roof.
How do the twits stick?
Let's see. All the other birds who had been sitting on the roof flew in to help, carrying paintbrushes in their claws and beaks. There were buzzards, magpies, rooks, ravens, and many more, and everyone was splashing away like mad, and with so many helpers, the job was soon finished. Why are they gluing the ceiling?
I don't know.
You'll find out in Chapter 24. The carpet goes on the ceiling. See you next time.